What would you like to hear from the Secret Service director?
First of all, I want to know who ultimately made the decision to prevent Trump from actually being protected that day. You know, we do see that Mayorkas is stonewalling our subpoenas to be able to understand what happened with communication between Secret Service. But I also, too, have some questions about who exactly this kid was working with. So we do know that he was a gamer. He was operating on a website called Discord, which is a chat room, and that it's very likely with the equipment that he came up with, the explosives and the detonator, that he was obviously working with someone.
Wow, explosives, easily accessible. Oh, that's crazy. Should we like limit access to those explosives? Should we, now, is that part are we gonna solve the conspiracy by like preventing people from gaining access to weapons? No, okay, you just wanna talk about Discord and gamers. This is a very winning strategy. That is Annal Paulina Luna of Florida, representative from Florida there on Fox, describing what she thinks is a conspiracy. Clearly, the shooter in her mind was working with someone. We'll get to the details of why that is not true. But Rachel Campos-Duffy added a little bit to that conspiracy. Didn't want to leave her girl hanging. So take a look.
It's super revealing that Alejandro Mayorkas is stonewalling on subpoenas when he knows that the entire nation wants answers to this. I mean, it's just, that guy, it's unbelievable. I want to know more about this kid as well. I mean, will that be part of the investigation? We know he had overseas encrypted accounts. What 20-year-old has that? You know, and also, are you going to get into, you know, was he, apparently he Googled depression. Was he on psychotropic drugs? I mean, all of these things are important for us to know as a nation.
Yeah, except we do know a lot of that. And if you did any real reporting, you could actually find the answers to this. And yeah, the FBI has been digging into it. And by the way, there's a lot that hasn't been disclosed about the wounds that Donald Trump suffered as a result of this attempted assassination. We'll get to that in a second. But the FBI has said, according to their investigation, which is ongoing, that the shooter did act alone. They say at this time, the information we have indicates the shooter acted alone and that there are currently no public safety concerns. That's the special agent who's in charge of this, Kevin Rojic, in a telephone briefing. He said also, at present, we have not identified an ideology associated with the subject, but I want to remind everyone that we are still very early in this investigation. They also noted that they didn't find a history of mental illness in Thomas Crooks' background, but he did search for depression, which should not incriminate anyone. But anyway, okay. So are Republicans serious about solving the mental health crisis? Do they want to, like, I don't know, expand Medicaid to include like mental health services? Do you want to have, should we, no? Okay, cool. Just making sure that it's still the deep state. It's still Alejandro Mayorkas. They're trying everything they can. But there is some truth in what they said, so let's dig in a little bit more. The encrypted platform that Thomas Crooks used seems to be maybe a place to find a motive. The shooter used 3 encrypted platforms in Germany, New Zealand, and Belgium. The FBI uncovered a number of the shooter's searches for images of public figures of a variety, including President Biden, former President Trump, and some limited online activity reflected the subject's state of mind, but noted encrypted communications have limited their ability to obtain certain information. In other words, not everything is as easy as Google or the access that was given to the FBI by, I believe, I'm assuming whatever phone company. But yeah, also, this is super normal. People use this all the time. They use all kinds of encrypted chats to get around, like, again, data release, or just to watch like Game of Thrones for free, or House of Dragon. Don't tell me what happened. But again, Jordan, this is just, they're always trying to find a conspiracy, the reason why we should not trust authorities on this, a reason why. Did the Secret Service explain why they hired women to do a man's job? I mean, it's endless with this guy. And yet the 2 things that we're still not talking about that we've covered on this show and many others is that the shooter was a Republican, was a registered Republican. The shooter got access to an AR-15. And also, like, there's an easy fix to prevent shootings like this from happening, which is, again, preventing people from getting access to those guns.
Yeah, the simplest explanation here is just too inconvenient for them. It doesn't fit into a narrative, so they have to move on to other things. They have to move on to conspiracies. You have some people arguing there were multiple shooters because they're still looking for something they can use and spin. Of course, they don't care about actually dealing with mental health issues in a meaningful way. Really trying to invoke that in this conversation, the searches for depression are similar to RFK stances on gun violence in this country, blaming SSRIs and antidepressants for people shooting other people with guns. The problem is access to guns. Republicans, of course, are not willing to do it. RFK is not willing to stand up to the gun lobby. He basically takes the same stance on gun rights as the right. So these people are lunatics. It's inconvenient for them that, like you say, this is a registered Republican who shouldn't have had a gun because he is crazy and because we don't have even like storage laws and people could just buy them for their crazy kids. We see this time and time again where someone goes out. That was what happened in Michigan. And then the parents actually got held accountable for that.
Right, and yes, which is massive. And I think the other thing to remember is he didn't actually have a criminal record. He didn't have a history of like mental health outbursts. He didn't threaten anyone before he took this like action. So I think that's the other thing to remember here is that you don't have to be someone with like open mental illness who is like written a manifesto, who's warning, like all of that, which honestly, I feel like we over stigmatize mental illness as if you're automatically somehow going to be a mass shooter. This guy had nothing on him and he still was able to get access to an AR-15 and nearly kill Donald Trump. Like it's wild. And so the conclusion is not we need, more. If anyone who searches depression on Google should be restricted from getting a gun. No, it's no one should have an AR-15 just broadly. And our access to guns is way too easy. The thing I want to focus on though, it has been more than 2 weeks since there was an attempted assassination on Donald Trump's life. And we still are awaiting an official report from the hospital that treated him for his wounds, his alleged wounds, honestly, because we don't have that hospital report from Butler Memorial that treated him on that day. In fact, what we do have now over the weekend is a report released from the Trump campaign about Trump's ear and his wound. And who is it written by? Ronnie Johnson Jackson. Or is it Jackson Johnson? I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure it's Ronnie Jackson. But again, Trump's favorite doctor, who says, this according to the AP, he's been with Trump since that time, evaluating and treating his wound daily. And he would remain with Trump through the weekend, including traveling to Michigan, where Trump held his first rally since the shooting, joined by his new running mate, Ohio Senator J.D. Vance. At Saturday's rally, the white gauze on Trump's ear was replaced by a skin-colored bandage. So tasteful. Moving on up. Trump, and this is again according to that the memo that was released. Trump was initially treated by medical staff at Butler Memorial Hospital. According to Jackson, doctors, quote, provided a thorough evaluation for additional injuries that included a CT of his head. Jackson stated that Trump sustained a 2-centimeter wide wound from the track of a bullet, quote, that extended down the cartilaginous surface of the ear. No sutures were required for Trump's wound, Jackson said, but there is still intermittent bleeding requiring a dressing to be in place. But how much pus has there been? We need quantities, Ronnie. I just wanna say, this is great. I'm glad we're getting some information about the wounds that Trump sustained. There also have been many prominent doctors who have said things like, you don't nearly get hit by a bullet and not have some lasting impact on your brain. There could be all kinds of impacts. And so are we gonna see that doctor's report? But so far we don't actually have it. Look, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist, Jordan, but if we're really playing by the same rules, shouldn't we see an actual doctor, not Ronnie Jackson's report from what happened to Trump that day?
Yeah, you would think, especially when they've spent the past several weeks arguing that Trump or Biden's buddy, who is his doctor, was hiding the truth about his condition. So they're both doing it. They both were doing it. Biden was certainly doing that. Trump has certainly been doing that for years. no one's going to provide any medical transparency. I mean, I don't doubt that he was hit after that picture of the bullet, but if that's going to be your case against Biden, it's like it's only fair that people expect the same transparency that you're arguing for from your then opponent. I also don't want to lose sight of, we didn't really touch on it in the first part of the segment. I do think there was Secret Service failure there. I still think the bigger problem is that people have access to weapons of war at a consumer level, but I don't want to lose sight of this. This is a pretty serious mess up by the Secret Service. Like, why wouldn't that roof be secured? Maybe it's them, maybe it's local police, but just that was even able to happen does seem pretty ridiculous.
100%. I don't think anyone's saying it wasn't. And especially the fact that the gunman was seen minutes before and they were warned. There was a breakdown. Obviously, there was a breakdown.
Members make a difference here at TYT. You help make the show happen, and we see you in the chat with your loyalty badge. Click the join button to become a member today.